This is Myra Elaine from the Buying Space Channel. Today I'm reading from the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which are contain the life of Jesus. And in my last reading, Jesus cleared out the temple of the money changers and cursed a fig tree. And we saw the result of that cursing. And the fig tree in symbology was the temple. Just a hint. Now, Jesus goes back to the temple later. As you can imagine, he's not the most popular person entering the temple that day. We're in Mark chapter 11. I'm going to start in verse 27. Again, they entered Jerusalem. As Jesus was walking through the temple area, the leading priests, the teachers of religious law, and the elders came to him. They demanded, "By what authority are you doing all these things? Who gave you the right to do them?" "I'll tell you by what authority I do these things if you answer one question," Jesus replied. "Did John's authority to baptize come from heaven, or was it merely human? Answer me." They talked it over among themselves. "If we say that it was from heaven, he will ask why we didn't believe John. But do we dare say it was merely human?" For they were afraid of what people would do, because everyone believed that John was a prophet. So finally, they replied, "We don't know." And Jesus responded, "Then I won't tell you by what authority I do these things." See, he knew that they were trying to entrap him. And Jesus was very wise. And it was not yet the time for him to be arrested for blaspheming, because they would have considered him answering that he was the Son of God. And he did it by the authority of God, because he was God. He was God the Son. He was the Son of Man. But if he'd have said that at this point in time, the timeline wouldn't have been right. All of these events were planned. Jesus' bloodline, Mary's bloodline, the philosophies of Aristotle and Socrates and Plato, who were, one of which I think it was Socrates, was a teacher of Alexander the Great. All of these things fell into place. The birthright going to Jacob instead of Esau. The conflict of the mothers of Abraham's two sons, Isaac and Ishmael. Moses being put into a basket and going down the river, the Nile River. All of those things had to fall into place at the right time. And Jesus knew it was not the time for him to say those things to the Pharisees and Sadducees, because they followed Jesus around, trying to trip him up. They wanted to kill him. When he cleared the temple, they weren't upset that people wouldn't be able to be redeemed. They were upset because he was interfering with their money, with their business. That's why they wanted to kill him, because he was taking away their power and their money. And that's not what Jesus was about. He wasn't taking the money directly to himself. He was just making sure that God's will was being done in the temple, which cost them money. He didn't have to obtain power. He had it the day he was born, or before he was born, when he was in heaven and came to earth. He'd always had it. So he didn't have to obtain it. But these religious men made themselves look like fools. And the people believed John the Baptist. People believed Jesus. He already had the power. All he had to do was share his wisdom. All he had to do was heal and help the people he did. The common people. That's what gave him power with the people. He was just doing what he was meant to do. And sometimes we have things like that in life that happen to us. We are just doing the things we are meant to do. We are just living our lives. And people have to throw grease on the floor. And people have to be stumbling blocks because of jealousy and anger. They were jealous and angry, and he cost them money. And he was costing them their credibility because it was obvious what they were doing. And life's like that. Sometimes it's obvious when people are tripping you up what they're after. But they still do it. They don't care. The Pharisees and Sadducees, they didn't care about spirituality. They were concerned that the money changers were gone. They were concerned about the money that they made from the sacrifices. And they also got the meat from the animals and the fruits and the doves and the grain and the wine. It all went to the Levites. That's what they were concerned about. And they had plenty at that point. And they didn't have to be charging the people all that money. And that's what made Jesus so angry. That his temple was supposed to be a house of prayer so people could be close to God. And they could get redemption. And when he kicked the people out of the temple, he also kicked out the people that were there to make sacrifices too, because they weren't in the right heart. They were there to go through a routine for forgiveness, but they still weren't right in their heart. Like, oh, I went and made the sacrifice at the temple, but they would go out and do the same sins again. The boastful rich that could sacrifice a perfect sheep, perfect lamb every single solitary day, but they never had a change of heart. So don't wonder why Jesus was angry. Don't think it was an imperfection. It was a natural reaction to the situation. The people that were making his sacrifice worthless. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everyone.